Social Development Department says only half of more than 250,000 registered non-profit organizations are compliant with legal requirements. In a statement, the department reveals that there's been an increase in complaints from the public about conflict within the boards and office bearers at these non-profits and about poor financial management. For more on this, we're joined tonight by the Chief Director for Registration and Compliance of NPOs in the Department of Social Development, Mpho Mngxitama. Mpho, a very good evening to you. Welcome to the program. So just why has this been going on and how long has it been going on?
Hi, good evening, Tembekile. This has been a historical event that has been happening of non-compliance. You'll recall that since 2012, the department hasn't been deregistering non-compliant NPOs. So there has been a variety of reasons why this is not happening. Why one would be ignorance of the law. NPOs would say that they are not aware that in terms of the Non-Profit Organizations Act, with the social development is administering, they are obligated to submit financial reports every year, the same as you would submit your tax returns. And most of the NPOs would say, we didn't know that we have to submit that. That would be one of the reasons. The second reason would be most of the non-profit organizations would be those that are deemed or are called CBOs. And they would say we don't have the capacity or the knowledge on how we actually need to submit the reports. So it's a variety of reasons why NPOs are non-compliant. And the Department of Social Development from then on decided that we need to take upon the developmental approach to actually go into communities, teach them on the importance of compliance, teach them on how to comply and actually assist them. We are in collaboration with SAIBA, which is an institute of bookkeepers that is assisting NPOs that don't even have the means or the capacity to submit financial reports. So this has been a drive that the social development has been doing and implementing and campaigning to make sure that they comply with the law. And some of the reason, yes,
if you allow me, I want to pick up on the point you're making about your empowerment efforts to try and make sure that the boards and the managers are upskilled, if we can put it that way. How would you rate your success in doing that if only about half of 250,000 are actually compliant?
So part of the reason would be that some of the NPOs would have their boards being in NPOs for a year or 2 years. So you find that there is that rotation of boards within the NPOs that do not actually stay there for a longer period. So our approach has been focusing on governance, where governance is part, financial governance is part of the problems that we have actually seen, and say that much of the governance issues, much of the board don't understand their responsibilities, their fiduciary responsibilities when it comes to financial issues within an organization. So our approach has been focusing on the boards to empower them, but you find that 2 years down the line, the board changes or the organization decides to remove that board and replace that with new boards. So our multi-pronged approach is not only should we empower the boards, but we also have to empower the staff, the management that are consistently in the organization. So this is the approach that we actually started 2 years ago to say our financial management and governance in terms of understanding the responsibilities of those that are tasked with financial responsibilities, understand why it is important to keep records so that it makes it easier for them to account and submit reports to us, as it were.
Where there is non-compliance with the rules, how long does it take before the department says, okay, we're actually deregistering this NPO?
Legally, every year we have to deregister the NPOs. Like I said before, that the moratorium from the Department of Social Development was that let us empower communities, let us empower the boards, let us empower the NPOs. So since 2012, we have been on a Know Your NPO Status campaign. We have been on the road shows in communities to assist them. And now in 2022, we are beginning later in the year, we will be deregistering those non-compliant NPOs. But before then, we are actually beginning to enforce the campaign of deregistration. We have been saying non-compliant, no NPO. Now that we are here, let us begin to deregister you, because what it means is that it actually compromises the register of NPO. It also compromises the legality of such NPOs that are not complying. When they go to apply for funding, for example, and they are non-compliant, it means that everything is not in order. It means that their governance is not in order. And as a result, anyone who wants to put their money in there would question in terms of, are they going to be able to account for each and every money that would be plowed into that NPO? So our responsibility is to make sure that the funders actually have confidence in the NPOs in terms of accounting and transparency and reporting.
So the issue of deregistration was mentioned by Minister Newzroom about in April last year, 2021. Do you have a number for how many have actually been deregistered since?
Not as yet, but from beginning July and August, we will be deregistering. And like I said, that we are actually embarking on a developmental approach, because these are historically disenfranchised NPOs. So what the department is doing is to actually, before we deregister, go into a drive, go into a campaign to actually ensure that everybody is aware, so that when we deregister, there would not be any call to say that we did not know that the department is going to deregister us. So before that, there would be a drive and a campaign to actually inform communities that this is what the department is going to be doing. 1st July, we'll be deregistering, yes.
So to be clear, none of the NGOs have been deregistered since Minister Newzroom spoke about the plans to do that in April last year.
Yes, and the reason would be with the lockdown the lockdown has actually disabled us from deregistering. Remember, some of the organizations would say that they would not receive the notification because there are processes that needs to happen before the actual deregistration, the notification, and ensuring that whoever is deemed to be deregistered is aware and they have received that notification, because in terms of the law, we cannot just deregister without notification of such an NPO. Therefore, as a result of the lockdown and all the rules that were there, the protocols, we had to make sure that before we do that, we have to understand and to make sure that whoever needs to be deregistered has received that notification as per the law, as per the NPO Act.
And a quick final one, and perhaps the most important question, is how would the people who are dependent on help from the nonprofits be affected directly should an NPO be deregistered, as you're saying, is likely to happen in the coming months?
And I think the delay in deregistering has actually put that into consideration, that the beneficiaries would be disenfranchised. Therefore, it is in the interest of social development to ensure that before an organization is deregistered, would be given an opportunity to submit reports. Remember, deregistration is all about that organization complying, and compliance means that submitting financial reports. Whether you are funded or not funded, there is a way of saying to the department, we did not receive funding, and however, this is what we've been doing. Those that have been receiving funding, not only from government, but also from private from private sector should be able to submit reports for accountability and transparency purposes. So the reason the delay has been implemented is to ensure that those that are benefiting from these NPOs are not disenfranchised, because once we deregister, it compromises the NPO, as it were, because whoever is funding would be in a position to ask whether I should fund or should not fund, and that is not what the department wants to do.
Okay. Mpho, so good to speak to you. Mpho is the Chief Director for Registration and Compliance of NPOs with the Department of Social Development. Mpho Mngxitama, thank you very much for your time, ma'am.